Hey, it's Mr. Keys, and today we're going to look at how the hi-hat works. The hi-hat is a very important piece of hardware with any drum kit. And I have my drum kit on the keyboard, and we're going to take a look at how it sounds and all that kind of stuff. So the hi-hat is essentially two cymbals that are stacked on top of each other, and there's a stand that holds them up. There's a pedal at the bottom of the stand, and the drummer presses the pedal up and down. Now, if the pedal is pressed, the cymbals go together. If the pedal is released, well, then they break apart. So depending on how the drummer presses the cymbals, that determines how close or how far apart they are. So on the keyboard, these three notes, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. Now for the keyboard that we use at school, the 49 key keyboard, it's going to be your bottom F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. On my keyboard, since it's full size, it's my second one from the bottom. The hi-hat creates a high frequency. It's that sound that you hear in songs. Okay, so this is a closed hi-hat, semi-closed, and a little less closed. Okay, it's not quite open, but yeah, it's a little less closed. So in terms of the hi-hat, what the strategy is for playing this within a beat, the hi-hat is used as the glue. And what I mean by that is, think about like two pieces of wood that are not, maybe there's some gaps and things like that. Well, you can put glue or something to kind of fill in the gaps so that you can't really see through it. And that's what the hi-hat is with the beat. It is going to work around the bass and the snare, which is the foundation of your beat, and it's going to add interesting rhythms, and it's going to kind of, in some songs, it really solidifies the pulse of the beat. And in other songs, it's used more in a syncopated way, which means offbeat. But in terms of how you create your hi-hat patterns, the sky's the limit. So there's no hard and fast rule that we're going to go by. But we're going to take a look at a number of strategies in terms of how to figure out, or how to, actually one strategy in particular in terms of how to make a hi-hat pattern. All right, so we're going to take a look at an example hi-hat pattern. And the example that I have as the notes appear, I'm just going to write them out here. So we have an eighth rest because nothing's on beat one. The hi-hat comes on the and, so there we go with an eighth note. And then we have two more on two and, nothing on three, but something on the and of three, and then four and. In bar two, we have exactly the same pattern, something on and of one, two and, nothing on three, something on the and of three, whoops, that should be, and we have something on four and, okay, and there we go. There's our hi-hat pattern. Now the snare is gonna be on the two and the four, just like our outline that we discussed in the last lesson. And the bass is simply gonna be on the one only. So this is gonna be our basic snare and bass drum pattern. The hi-hat is where we can be a little more creative. So you can see that on the one and the three, I don't have the hi-hat coming in, but I have it coming in all the other spots. So this is what this beat sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so let's take a look at how we can create our own examples. The hi-hat shouldn't be erratic in terms of how it's created. And so as you can see, like what I did was I created some sort of pattern and I repeated it in the next bar. And that's a great way of creating things that are interesting, yet so that the ear doesn't really wonder like, okay, is there going to be some sort of similarity going throughout? You want similarity, but at the same time, you also want interesting. So you got to you have to balance both of those aspects. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So we're going to use words to count the hi-hat patterns. And the words that I came up with a phrase, an 8-syllable phrase, black bow ties, I think they'd look cool. And this is going to help us fill in an 8th grid hi-hat pattern. And each one of these words goes towards one of the beats. So black goes to one, bow goes to and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at how we can make this work with a hi-hat pattern. Now, I'm just going to switch over to GarageBand and start the beat that we're going to go over. And we're going to use this beat to create examples and to test them out. All right, so the first thing I'm going to turn on, let's use black, but let's skip bow and tie, and let's turn on I, think, let's skip they, and do look and cool. So when you're counting this, this is our beat, right? So black, bow, ties, I, think, they, look, cool. But the thing is that we're not going to say all the words. So we're going to skip some of the words. So in order to show you that I'm skipping the words, I'm going to whisper some of the words, okay? And I will snap, or actually I'll just play the words that I'm saying on the hi-hat. Okay, so here we go. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Black bow ties, I think they look cool. Black bow ties, I think they look cool. All right, and so that's what our hi-hat pattern is sounding like when we use this phrase and we take out the words that we didn't decide to use. All right, so now up here, this is going to look like this. Nothing on and, nothing on 2, but something on the and of 2, something on the and of 3, nothing, or sorry, on 3, but not on the and of 3, and something on 4 and. And that's what our pattern looks like. Let's try another pattern. So this time, we're not going to use black, we'll use bow. We're not going to use ties, we'll use I. And we'll use they. And cool, so I guess everything that's offbeat. So this is on beat, this is on beat, this is on beat, and this is on beat. So that means all the notes that we've chosen are offbeat. Okay, so here's how this sounds. Black bow ties, I think they look cool. Black bow ties, I think they look cool. All right, and this is what it looks like musically. Oops. Okay, so there we go. And here's how it sounds when we play the hi-hat pattern. So black ties, think, look cool. Black bow ties, I think they look cool. And that's the pattern. All right. So you can come up with your own patterns. And we're going to take a look at the 16th note grid. So now instead of just having 2 sections per beat, we have 4. So we're going to have to switch our pattern because we're not going to be able to use the 8th note word pattern that we had. So for this one, we're going to use this one. Cats and mice who both like cheese should not come near or fights will break out. So when we're lining this up with our beat, we got to figure out what the beat is still, and we got to break the beat into 4 pieces. So that means cats, both, not, and fights should come on our snap. So cats and mice who both like cheese should not come near or fights will break out. Cats and mice who both like cheese should not come near or fights will break out. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take some of the words and leave some of the other ones. Okay, so I'm going to take, let's skip maybe the first one of every single beat. Okay, so we'll keep these 3. And we'll do that for the first 2 beats. Actually, we'll do it for all of them. Okay. So here's what this sounds like. Now, this is really quick, the way that we need to say this. So I'm not going to be able to whisper and not whisper some of the words. So I'll just play it, and I'll say the entire phrase as I play. And actually, before we do that, musically, this is what this looks like. So we have a 16th note rest, followed by 3 16th notes. That's the first beat. Then we have a 16th note rest again. And all of our beats look like this. They all look exactly the same. Okay, so let's play this now and see what this sounds like. Here we go. Cats and mice who both like cheese should not come near or fights will break out. Okay, we can count this in the normal way as well. So like 1, a half, a 2, a half, a 3, a half, a here we go. 1, a half, a 2, a half, a 3, a half, a 4, a half, a. But I think when it comes to, using these words, maybe you'll come up with more creative ideas than, you know, if you're just counting 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, 4/2. So it's up to you what you do, but this is one more way that we can come up with interesting patterns and things like that. And I hope you learned a lot. That's it for today, and I will see you next time.